Hey guys, my name is xOctoManx and this is part 3 of my nation and character selection tutorial. In this part I want to add some cars and I want to make sure that I create some buttons to tint that car's chassis. I don't want to tint the car's wheels, but I still want to go over all that process. So if you have a character you want to tint in the armor or any special piece, then you have the possibility to do so, since we are creating a list for them, that particular pieces which are all tintable at the same time with just one button depending on the color of the button itself. Okay, so let's get started. First I want to implement some cars which I already have created, which are pretty much low poly, and you have seen them in the introduction. I just dragged them into my 3D models folder. As you can see, nothing special on them. Just some, again, a low poly bus, a car, and a truck. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to take those three car types and want to place them on my platforms so I can tint them later on. Also, I want to make sure that they are children of the particular small cylinders in here, so they know, okay, this cylinder contains this special car or whatever. So what I want to do is I want to drag those cars onto my cylinders as a child and then resize them, since they will be maybe a bit too big. So I start with the truck, for example, in here, but there's this very weird scaling, so I'm not able to drag them directly on that, so I drag them at first into the scene itself and then make them a child of the cylinder I want to. Since I have scaled down the cylinder in its size, as you can see, it's just pretty small sized, and the scaling of the bus would just take the same scaling as the cylinder has been. So since this now is a child of that cylinder, I can just reposition that by just setting reset position. So the pivot point of the bus will be at the center of the cylinder, or of the pivot point of the cylinder. So what I can do right now is I can go and resize my bus a bit, and again I could go over and reposition this one. And I, of course, have the possibility to change its position to wherever it has to be. Maybe like this, kind of centered, and looks okay-ish for me at the moment. So I can do the same with the car, so I drag the car into the scene. And now I make a child of cylinder 1 in this case, and reset its position. And as you can see, it's again also a bit too big, so I resize that one a bit down too. Maybe this, and just drag this directly onto the platform where it has to be. If you are not able to see it, just go closer to it and see where the shadows are starting and when the tires are going into the form itself. Okay, same for the truck. I take that thing directly into the scene, so it's zeroed out, and then I drag this onto cylinder 2 and reset its position. Again, I go in and scale the truck a bit down. Maybe I take the same scaling of the other cars, but I don't want to go too deep into that right now. Okay, so the next thing is I want to tint the tires, the wheels. And so I can just go in, and since they are all separate game objects, in my case some n-gons, I have the possibility to select them all at the same time, go to my materials folder, create a new one, and this material is just any standalone material, and I call this one, I don't know, black. You can also say wheels and so on and so forth. Again, I go over and select them all and drag the material directly on it. Also, I want to make sure that I have an almost blackish wheels in here, so all of those 4 wheels are have the black material. Same for the truck and same for the car's tires or wheels. Okay, there we go. So I have those 3 guys set up. What I now can do is I can take those 3 buses, the bus, the car and the truck, and duplicate them and bring them onto the other side. But first press Ctrl D. The only thing is I need to rename them later on. Okay. So I want to make sure that they are kind of in the center of where they have to be. But it seems so. If not, it doesn't really matter for me at the moment. You can be as precise as you want. And then you take the bus and place that on the correct cylinder. I hope that is the right one. Well, the bus has to be on cylinder 6 in this case. The car in here, the car has to be on the 1. The bus needs to be on cylinder 7, so I drag this one there. The car on, what did I say, 5 or 6? I don't know. Needs to be on the 6. And the truck needs to be on that cylinder, which is cylinder 5, so I drag that to cylinder 5. Some have been renamed, as you can see. One of those buses has been renamed. I want to make sure that I rename that back. Well, just for the moment. Later on, I might need to change stuff in there too. Okay, so what do we have now is when we are pressing play, those cars will automatically rotate with our platforms. And since they are going to do that, they also will rotate with the smaller platforms once we are going in and selecting a particular platform, of course. So as you can see, all of them are rotating right now, and same will and should happen to our red platform in here. So as you can see, they can be rotating around on them. Okay, so now I want to add some functionality for the chassis color itself. So I can tint their chassis whenever their specific selected character is on, or in my case a car. And yeah, that's what we have to do in the next several minutes, and we will go over and open up the rotate platform script. So what we need is, after we have the rotations to reach, the selected character and selected platform, we need some more variables in here. The first one is that we are going to create a list, as I already commented out in here, and this list will contain all tintable objects. So what we do is we create a public list of type GameObject, of course, and this is going to be our tintable objects list. And this one is going to be a new list of type GameObject. So also we need a tint color. I'm not 100% sure if I want to use that, but for now I believe we do so. Which is the current color of, or not the color, but the color to change to. And this is going to be of type color 32. You can also take the normal color, I believe, and you call this one tint color. And this tint color from its, or in its basic, it's going to be color.white at the first or at the beginning. We can also go and in the start loop through all that objects and tint that already. Well, maybe later on we will do so, but currently we don't need to. Okay, so let's scroll down a bit until we reach the end of the script, and we create a new function for this one, which is going to be public and of type void. Whoops, once again, type void, and this is going to be tint the objects. So this is our function we need to tint all our objects, and what we want to do is we want to loop through all particular objects and then tint all that one which are in the list we were just creating in here, the tintable objects list. So what we do is we say for int I, again a normal or easy for loop for this one, since we want to loop through the whole list. So for int I is going to be equal to 0, so we start at element 0, and while I is smaller than the char select dot count, we increment I. So what we do in here is we loop through all possible characters. In this case we have a maximum of 4 characters, so we go through all of them and see how many we have actually. So we basically get the amount of the current actual possible characters. So after that is when we are going through that list, we want to make sure that the character we are currently on, which is in this case represented by I, is if this is going to be the currently selected character. So we need to set the characters, the selected character in over here in the raycasting in just a second. So if the char select, then the I, so wherever we are currently on, and the selected character is going to be equal to the clicked character, and this is another game object. We will just, we have to implement it first. So the clicked character is just an empty game object space holder for us, which is used or needed to compare game objects. So, or this is for color tint. So the clicked character is going to be the character we just selected when we have selected our our platform. So we say at the very beginning this is going to be equal to null, so there's nothing inside that game object, so we don't have any problems later on. And of course in the raycasting function, if the hit collider is going to be the selected platform name, we want to say that the click character is going to be equal to char select, and again here the I dot selected character. The selected character again is the character we will actually which is kind of the character we are going to set. So a specific car, for example, or prefab or whatever. So we will set that click character to be the selected character we just already have. In that, if there is nothing inside, then we of course will get a null reference. Otherwise, there will be we will get that out. And so, what we want to check if the selected character is the same as a click character, of course, at that point when we want to tint the object. And now we need another nested for loop. So when this is the case, then we need to loop through all the components we are actually possible, or we have the possibility to loop through and tint. So we again loop through that. In this case, we say int j is going to be equal to 0. So we start again at the number 0. And while j is going to be smaller than char select, then we need I dot tintable objects dot count. So the length of the list in the currently selected character of I, which we were just created, or we were just going through here, and we take that currently selected character and ask for all tintable objects length. And while we are smaller than that, we want to increment I, of course, and tint the specific game objects while we are there. So how can we tint them? Again, we say char select, and again we go through I dot tintable objects, and in here we take j, which is the second for loop we are currently looping through, and then we want to get all its components of type mesh renderer. The mesh renderer will hold all materials and colors. So we say dot material. At first that open close brackets. Then dot material dot color. And now we can set this color to any color we want. And what color is the best one for this? Of course, it's the child select. Again, I dot tint color. Okay, so now we are going through, when we are calling this function, we are looping through all possible characters. Then we check if one of those characters is our currently clicked character, so the click platform basically, and its character inside. And when we have found the click character, then we loop through that click character and tint all objects inside. So all armor pieces which are in the tintable objects list will be colored by the tint color. And currently the tint color is set to white, as we just did in here. And later on, this tintable color or this tint color will be changed by the buttons itself, depending on the button color. And I believe that's the next one we are going to do. So save the script and return to Unity for a second. I also go and get rid of the debug line in the collision stuff in here and save again, so I can clear that console. Okay, so there are no errors currently. So what we can do right now is we can take one of our canvases for nation panel 1 or 2, doesn't matter. And this is going to be one of those input panels in here where we only have a back button. So what we do is we unhide this one, or unhide, and hide the main panel. And in the nation input panel, I can now pass in or can create a lot of buttons with different colors. So I can read that colors which I just create and tint the color the buttons with, then take that information and push the data into our rotation and our rotate platform script directly on the nation. So what we do is right click UI create button. This button has currently a white color in here. This is also we are going to take. The button does not need any text, except you want a text for this one. And I can call this one button white. So now I can also go in and shrink all of that. Shrink the button itself, so I have a size I prefer, maybe like this. And I can also make sure that all sides have the same size, so maybe a 41 by 41 pixel. And this is going to be white, as I said. What I now can do, I can also create another panel under that, so I have later on the possibility to lay them out as I want and don't need to drag them all alone by them alone. So what I can do is I can also take nation input UI and create a panel. This panel is full size at the beginning, so I can go over and drag this down to whatever my needs are, maybe like this. And then I can also add a horizontal layout group, for example, so I can easily put all that buttons directly in that layout group. So what I can do is I can say horizontal layout group, but I don't want to change the width. Now I can drag the panel into that. Oh wait. Yes, and the white button of course needs a layout element instead, and I want a minimum width of 41 pixels. So what I can now do is I can take that button and duplicate that how often I want, and as you can see, the panel size or the panel itself will automatically resize, or should. If it's not doing that, it doesn't matter actually. It's just easier to take that whole panel and drag around that buttons later on. So also I can place them directly in the center, for example, of my selection screen in here. So now I can go over and rename them to maybe a red and go into the color itself and change the color to red. I can take this one and rename this to yellow, and of course go in and change the color to something yellowish or maybe orange. Looks maybe a bit better. Then we have maybe blue. You can create as many as you want, or green. No, let's take blue as we just said. And the last one can be green, more for example. And we change the color to something greenish. I don't know, maybe like this. So now we have 5 color buttons, which we can take the information of the color source or from the image component directly. So we need to create a small script which is passing over all that information in our rotate platform script. In there again we have two possibilities I want to show you, but at first let's create the button script. So I call or create this one button color, for example, button color. Okay, what I also want to make sure is that all my newly created buttons in here will get that button color script as a component on them. And now let's open this one up in MonoDevelop. Like this. So what do we need at first is a placeholder for the color itself. So I say color, and this is going to be just my color. So color is a type which is holding all RGB alpha data, and my color is a variable which is holding that. I don't need to public this because it's just an internal case or internal stuff. Also, what I want the color to do at the start is I want to change my color going to be equal to get component, and what I want to do is I want to take the image component. And since I want to take that image component, I need to take care of that using the right namespace called using Unity Engine.ui. Otherwise, we don't have access to image components. Now I have access to it. And what I want to take is from that image component is, of course, just the color. So at start, I fill in the color information directly from the image component, and now I can use my color as a variable and send that to the needed script or button or whatever. Okay, so what I now need is, since it is a button, I need two public variables, so I have directly access to them from the button itself. So what I say, it's going to be public void, and then I say send colors, maybe nation 1. So this is for nation 1, so we need two functions with the same input, but since the outcome is going to be another one, I want to make sure that I have two functions of this. So send colors nation 1 and a send colors nation 2. What I want to do is next is I have two possibilities to get the colors right into our rotation script. At first I can find the game object where the rotation game object is on, or I could for every button drag in all that game objects, and so I don't need to find them. The rotate platform, rotate platform script, which we want to access, I can just say nation 1 script, maybe like this. So in this, if I would do it like that, I can show you this one directly on a button itself in that button color script. What you would see is we would have that spot in here, and could now, when we select them all, just place in or take in the rotation platform, which is cylinder L or R, where the rotation script is on, and then we just don't need to find them in the scene. So I don't know which is going to be resource heavier, but I believe it's easier for you to understand how this is going to work. Since we don't need to get any components and all the other things, but the other version would work the same. So what I do right now is I take nation 1 script, and since I have or should have later on the direct connection to it when we are dragging them onto the script itself, I can say the button color, which is maybe not in here. Let's see. Yeah, that's what we need, of course. We need into the rotate platform script, we need a reference so we can tint or get the button color first. So what I want to do is I want to create a public color 32 or color, it doesn't matter, and call this one button color. I better write a small letter, maybe, otherwise there would be a problem. So in our button color script, I should now have the button color accessible, as you can see over here, and the button color is going to be equal to my color. And what I also want to do is I want to call the function tint the objects. So nation1 script dot tint the objects and brackets open close, and that's it for the first. And the second one is going to be the same, but instead of nation1 it's going to be nation2. Okay, and that's it. Save. Now when it's done compiling, we should have two possibilities in here. What we can do right now is we can drag the cylinder L into the left platform and cylinder R in the right platform. But the deal is all those buttons only will call one script at the same time. So since we are in the nation2 input panel, we only call the cylinder R. What we do is we need now to drag every time one of those buttons and drag them in itself. So what we do is we take button white and drag in button white and call the function button color, or the script button color, send color nation2. Same for red. We drag this in, button color, send color nation2. Same here, select yellow button, send color nation2, blue button and the blue one, since we have the script directly on them, and for the green one too. If you have 100 buttons, well, yeah, then you have to go and take all of them, or go and search for them and add them, not like this by hand, but you have also the possibility to call them, and enter them by script. Okay, so now since I have the nation2 input panel done, I want to test this one out. If I have done everything right. Well, no, I didn't. Since at first the main panel needs to be active once again, of course, also in the in the character R button, I have some more stuff I need to place in, and in this case it's going to be the selected character and the tintable object for that specific character. So since it is the cylinder is going to be the selected platform, the selected character is going to be LP bus. Also in LP bus I have the chassis directly on it, so I drag this chassis also into the tintable objects list. You can drag in as many as you want. So now I can close element 0 and open element 1. Element 1 has the cylinder 2, so there is LP truck in it. So the selected character is going to be LP truck, and the tintable object is also LP truck. So I drag this directly on the name of the list and it will automatically add that. Same for element 2. I have cylinder 3 on it, but cylinder 3 is empty, so there's nothing to tint and nothing to select. So you want to make sure that there's stuff inside. And the last one is going to be the car on cylinder 1. So tintable colors, tintable objects will also be the LP car. Okay, that's it for the right cylinder. So let's go into open the left cylinder. And here, element 0 is going to be cylinder 5, and the selected character is going to be the LP truck. And the tintable object is also the LP truck. Close element 0, open element 1, cylinder 7 has LP bus. And the tintable object is going to be also the tintable bus, the LP bus. And you have to drag in again all armor pieces or whatever you need and to tint. Also, cylinder 4 has nothing inside, so a selected character is going to be empty, same to tintable objects. And element 3, which is cylinder 6, holds the LP car, so also the tintable object is going to be LP car. That's it. Now we should be able to tint at least one of those nation's cars, and the others shouldn't be affected. And now, as you can see, this car is going to be the selected character, but when I press on that buttons, nothing is happening. I figured we have a small error in here. It's not going to be car select I.tint color, which is a the color to tint, well, what we need to do is we take the reference of the button color, we just pass in the right or correct parameters, and then we should be good to go. So save that, and let's see if it's working right now. Oh, I see, I have a small problem. As you can see, I increment I at the very end in the second for loop, which is wrong. I need to increment J, of course, so I believe that's why I have all that problems in here. So the second for loop needs, of course, to increment J instead of I. So make sure you have that too. So I save, and we'll go over into that and check again if there are any errors left. Now, since we have the setup for Nation 2 input done, we can copy and paste the complete panel with all the buttons into the Nation 1 input. So we go over and just duplicate that panel, drag this into Nation input 1, and deactivate Nation input 2. And we rename that one to just panel, so we don't have any problems later on. Also, we can open the panel itself up. And what we need to do, instead of using the Send Colors Nation 2, we need to change all those buttons again to Send Color Nations 1. So go over to that, click Button Color, Send Nations Color 1. Same for the other ones. For the red one, it's just pretty easy, click through that. For the blue one, the green one, and that's it. So we go to the red nation, choose car, and now we shouldn't get any error. As you can see, I can choose anything, I don't have any error. I go to the truck and can do that on here, and of course I can change the bus too. Also, they will stay when I'm checking that, and I can also tint the other cars with the corresponding buttons. And yeah, now I just need to take care of the handling of the panels, since somehow they have been activated and didn't got deactivated when pressing on the back buttons. That's happening because of the not blocking raycast. So what I want to make sure is that I go over and block some raycasts when I am pressing on specific buttons. To implement the raycast to be blocked by our buttons, we need to enter some additional data into our raycast function. But before we can actually use that, we need to implement the namespace using Unity Engine .event systems. This event systems has a lot of trigger possibilities, and of course it will take care of all the blocking of raycasts too. Inside of our update function, where we are checking for inputs right before we are creating our array, we want to create a small if statement. And this if statement is going to be if not event system dot current dot is pointer over game object. So if it's not the case, then we will do everything which comes after that if statement. So we are clicking on something, then we check if the event system does not contain any pointer over game object. This game object in this case is going to be a GUI element, and then only then do the raycasting stuff. So we save our rotate platform script, but the downside is we need to take care of some of our panels, since every panel is representing a game object, and we are blocking that with the small line of code we were just entering in here. So what we need to do is we need to take care of the size of all input panels and only block at that positions where buttons are. So we can enable Nation 1 panel, for example, and you can easily test it out by trying out if you are able to select any car, but I believe you don't, or I know you don't. So what you do is you select Nation panel 1 or 1 panel, and you drag out the button at first to the canvas. Then the next thing is you decrease the size of the panel, of the Nation 1 panel, to only the button size of the back button, since you don't have anything inside of that. If you have other informations in there, no problem, then you decrease the size when you have something like text or so in the very top, for example. Then you make sure that it is only that size and nothing else. So every button, every panel, every text field, anything else in front will be blocked. So when you have resized that one, the stretching will be still the same. Drag the button directly back to the Nation 1 panel. So now we should be able to select cars again. So I disable that one pretty quick and test this one out. So I go to that, can select my Nation panel, and now you can see I am able to select the car, the particular car I am in, but I'm not able to click on all of that other cars I might have or want to select as I have done before. In this case, I only can go back and then select another car, but I can't again change any other car because it is blocked by the input panel, because it is a full-size canvas panel. So we need to take care of the size of that one too, and same for the panel which we have in here. This panel also will get blocked, so we don't need to take care of that since it's only that small size, but we need to take care of the Nation input panel. What we do again is we take button and panel and drag this onto the canvas once again. Take the Nation input panel and drag this one there where we want to block the raycast. In this case, that small field in here. Now taking back the back button and the panel itself and place this onto the Nation input panel once again. And now we should be able to get everything back to work. I'm gonna test that one out once again. So start, Nation select green, go to any car, also have the possibility to check or select any other cars or characters in your case. When I press back and now want to click on that rotating guy or rotating platform while under the back button, you can see there is no problem anymore and they will still go and be back in that rotation state. So since we have done that for the left side, we also need to go over and take the same action for the right side. So the first one again is going to be the Nation 2 panel, which is nothing representing else than just the back button again. So we enable this one. As you can see, the back button is also on the top, on the bottom left side. So again, in the 2D mode, we go over and drag the button out to the canvas. Take Nation panel, resize it to our needs, maybe to this, and then take the button back into the Nation 2 panel. Okay, disable that one once again, since we don't need that anymore for now. And the next is Nation 2 input panel. It's having again the whole screen size, so we drag out the button and the panel again. Go to Nation 2 input, drag this to the size wherever we had the other guys, and then drag back in panel and button. So the Nation input panel is only that small thing, and the rest is going to remain the same. So now let's go over and test this one out once again. Oh, and don't forget to disable Nation 2 input. So again, we go press start. Try to select one of our cars. In our selection menu we can also tint their colors, go back, select another one, and also get back to all the other screens we want to. Okay, that's it, everything I wanted to cover in this tutorial. In the next tutorial we'll go over and pass all the parameters and informations, including an input panel, into a save data file or into player prefs. I don't know yet. I believe we use player prefs since it's only 3 data at this time. And make those ready so we can go with that information into the battle or into the race or into the game, and then work with all that input information we gave that save data file. Thanks for watching the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thumb this video up if you like it and feel free to become my patron or donate by using PayPal to support me and my channel in the future. All links will be below in the description. See you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.